Good morning. Excuse me. Welcome to Reading the Science of Mind in 1 Year. I'm Reverend Rafe Ellis, Senior Minister and Spiritual Leader of the Center for Spiritual Living Common Ground in Central Maryland. What is today? June 12th. Uh, so let's get started listening to our reading and see what comes alive in us.
Reading for June 12th. Science of Mind, A Philosophy of Faith, A Way of Life by Ernest Holmes. Reading from page 464, paragraph 2, through page 466, paragraph 1, using inclusive language. No one gives to us but ourselves. And they fain would have filled their belly with the husks that the swine did eat, and no person gave unto them. How true this is! No one can give unto us but ourselves, and no one can rob us but ourselves. There are no gods to say us nay, for we are the life we live. In our greatest extremity, in the moment of great need and dire distress, who can help or serve us? All of our troubles come from an isolated sense of being. We alone can return to the parent's house. The question might be asked, where was spirit and why did it not come to the rescue of its beloved child? Did it not care? Was it heedless about its child's welfare? Why did spirit allow such a thing to happen? There is only one answer to all questions of this nature. Spirit is always spirit, and people can always do as they please. They would not be an individual unless this were possible. The source is never conscious of incompletion. The parent's house is always open, the latch string ever hanging out, the door always ajar, but people must enter if they wish to abide within. Harmony can never become discord. The truth can never produce a lie. The divine can never be less than the divine. Could spirit enter into a field of strife, then it would not be spirit. The divine cannot enter the pig pen. We cannot contract the infinite, but we can expand the finite. And no person gave unto them. It is always thus. The Great Awakening. And when they came to themselves, they said, how many hired servants of my parents have bread enough and to spare, and I perish with hunger? And when they came to themselves, this is the Great Awakening, the moment in which we now live. In this moment, we are asking this question of ourselves. Is there not plenty in the universe? Why do we want? In this divine awakening, there seems to be an inner witness who remembers that we came from a heavenly state. There seems to be an answer from that great within which says the parent's house is filled with peace, power, and plenty. The universe is not limited. It is abundant, lavish, extravagant. Nothing can be taken from nor added to it. Creation is the play of life upon itself. We know by intuition that there is something beyond what we have so far consciously experienced in this world. Poets have sung of it, and there are moments in the lives of all when the veil seems thin between and we almost enter into the heavenly estate. This is the meaning of coming to one's self. We are still in the awakening state. We have not yet consciously entered the state of perfect wholeness. We know that such a state is a reality and that we shall yet attain this reality. Nothing can dislodge this inner and intuitive perception of our own mentality. We know it as certainly as we know that we live. This is spirit in us knowing itself. We are awakening to the realization that the universe is perfect and complete. It gives. It is love. It is good and wills only good to all alike. Self condemnation. The prodigal said, I will rise and go to my parent, and will say unto them, Parent, I have sinned against heaven and before thee, and am no more worthy to be called thy child. Make me as one of thy hired servants. This represents a theological state of mind which is quite common to all of us, one of self-condemnation and personal distrust. It is morbid and detrimental to our welfare. The theological state of introspective morbidity, which might be classed as one of our worst mental diseases. Self-condemnation is always destructive and should never be indulged in by anyone. It is always a mistake. There is no question but that all of us have done that which is not for the best. From this viewpoint, all have been sinners because all have fallen short of the divine calling. If we have sinned, it is because we have been ignorant of our true nature and because experience was necessary to bring us to ourselves.
Hmm. All right. So we got a little bit going on here. Just a little bit. Um, what comes alive in me as I listen to this being read again is the recognition that we as individuals are solely responsible for what we experience. Now, that can easily be confused with what other people do is my fault. That is not what I said. What I said is that I am solely responsible for what I experience. My experience oftentimes has very little to do with what actually happened, right? Um, we are always interpreting what's happening through whatever lens we're using. And this whole idea of perfection is challenging to talk about because we forget that what we're really talking about is the essence of something. Like the substance of us is whole, perfect, and complete. It doesn't always translate to our behavior is whole, perfect, and complete. Being in this physical realm, we tend to anthropomorphize everything. Everything. Right? Even in the beginning of this reading, where it's giving the analogy of a child asking a parent for something. Right? Our language, our language positions us to talk about things in separation. And so we have to be very intentional to talk about life from the understanding and revelation of wholeness. Right? To try to use analogies that represent the wholeness of life rather than a separation of life. Um, I love this sentence. We know by intuition that there is something beyond what we have so far consciously experienced in this world. And for me, the key word there is consciously. Um, that that I'm not aware of. Right? That's all that sentence is saying, is that there is something beyond what I am aware of, so I haven't experienced it in my world yet. Right? And the tricky thing about the world is we think about the world as a planet, as a body of people. And the reality of it is we all create our own individual world, you know? I mean, we have those phrases. In whose world is does this make sense? Or what world are you living in? Right? Because there's my world and there's your world, and our world is created by ourselves, by what we believe. We're all living on the same planet. We're all living in the same country, right? Same town, same locality. We can be in the same house and be in two different worlds. And so, what if we lean into that, right? To understanding that our experience is individualized on purpose. On purpose. Um, we wouldn't be, we wouldn't have free will if we couldn't choose. Um, Life is always life. The divine is always the divine. This whole section where it talks about, spirit is always spirit. It's never against itself. But that doesn't stop me from choosing out of alignment. Um, and I love that. Um, where does it say that? Hmm. If we have sinned, it is because we have been ignorant of our true nature. This is the part that really I went, huh, there's that. And because experience was necessary to bring us to ourselves, every choice we make is bringing us closer to that awareness, to that conscious, consciously entering our whole perfection. And how does that happen? Well, as much as I hate the analogy of the target, that's really what happens. Right? There is the internal us, there is the essence of us that we're all always trying to get back to. And we make a choice, and that choice plays itself out in the creative process. We choose, the activity of the creative process, law, acts on that choice and manifests it in form in our lives. And depending on what we tell ourselves about that, we have the experience that we have. And that experience either moves us closer to the essence of our being, to a greater experience of the true nature of ourselves, or it pushes us further away, or maybe it just creates enough turmoil that we look deeper. And that's the process of bringing us closer. How it all plays out is so individualized. I don't. I personally don't think we serve ourselves well at all to try to articulate that. You know, well, you're either doing this or you're doing this. It's too simplistic. Um, we're always in motion, we're always in process. Um, the whole idea of direction of toward and away from is the human paradigm. What if we leaned into we're simply in that process of self awareness and to understand that part of that awareness of self is recognizing that there's no separation, that the same self, the same divine self, is here as in you. Um, I am an individualized expression of it, but I'm not a separate expression of it. We share spiritual DNA, we share spiritual substance. We're all one thing expressing in multiplicity. And that's a big thing to lean into in these human brains that we have, right? It's big. And so I think that's the invitation. And all of these writings and these readings and the exploration are simply avenues through which we explore to ferret out what fits and what doesn't. And every day every minute, really, every breath is a new opportunity of exploration. And I will wrap up with this. What I have found is that when I discard good and bad, right and wrong from my exploration, and I simply explore from a perspective of what is, then it's much easier. Much easier. Um, there is no good and bad, there is no right and wrong, there is no big and little in spirit. That's a human thing. And so I invite you to explore from the perspective of simply what else is here? What else is here? And then listen to that intuitive that already knows. We know by intuition that there is something beyond what we have so far consciously experienced. Allow yourself to be open to knowing, to experiencing consciously, intentionally, on purpose. You deserve to know the truth of you, all of you. And as soon as you know that, you know the truth of all, because there's only one truth. Let's take this into our meditation. One breath, breathing all of life, giving itself to itself. One power, everywhere present, indefinable, unlimited, infinite possibility, the unformed, moving into form to express, the unseen becoming seen to express, known by many, many names: Spirit, God, Allah, Buddha, Jesus, the great mystery. By whatever name we call it, we recognize it. We recognize it is the source and the substance of the life we're living. And knowing that I am that in form, knowing that I am an intentional, one of a kind, individualized representation of this one presenting itself again in the multiplicity of form. I know that I am that. I know that this life I'm living is the activity of creation, continuous. That the divine self that I am is already whole, perfect, and complete, referring to the substance of me, whole, perfect, and complete. And that this journey in physical form is a journey of remembering. Remember, to bring together the members, the aspects, all of those things that lead me to a recognition of the truth of spiritual being. This is my life. This is my journey. Always a journey of self-recognition. Neither forward nor backward, neither up nor down, neither good nor bad. It is simply a journey of self-recognition. And so I speak my word, claiming and affirming that I already know who I am. That I am this infinite intelligence in form. And I choose to be aware of that. I choose to allow this human journey to remind me of the truth of my being. I choose to recognize every experience as simply part of the journey of remembering, of bringing together all of the members of the wholeness, all of the cells of the one body, to remember who and what I am. Knowing that as I remember who I am, I know who all is, because there's only one. And I speak my word, claiming and affirming that the truth of that drops from my head into my heart. That there is a knowing beyond the intellect, that there is a knowing within my being that recognizes itself. That simply takes a more conscious, more intentional journey into the wholeness of life, into the perfection of the substance of which all is made, while honoring and celebrating the necessity and the power of absolute free will. I speak my word, claiming and affirming that I am no longer caught in the judgment of others or myself, that self-condemnation has no place in my journey, that I recognize human behavior as simply that, and that within me is the balance of human accountability and spiritual awakening. I claim it to be so. And when I speak for myself, I speak for all, remembering there is only one here. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful for that aspect, that activity within the creative process. Law. Law because it responds lawfully to every use of itself. It simply says yes to whatever, and using all of the infinite that is available makes it so. And so I know that what has been spoken here has already been made so. It's already done. And so I can let go. I can let it be. And so I do. Ashe. Shalom. Aho. Amin. Amen. And so it is. Namaste.
Thank you.